Help me, this one's heavy!
Oh, yeah, no kidding.
No, okay, let it go, let it go! Oh.
What are you guys doing?
We're building a castle. What's it look like?
Well, it doesn't look like much.
Not yet.
Just
Oh,
getting
are you
started.
guys building a castle?
Yeah, you wanna grab a rock?
Oh, this one's heavy.
Oh, careful with that one.
Oh no. I must be dense. Very, very dense rock.
Listen, I know you're attached to this, but there is a better way. Welcome, folks. You might remember that recently we released a video outlining my 28mm 7 Samurai collection. Well, today I've just gone through assembling a Japanese MDF castle keep, or a tenshu. So we'll talk about how would you actually wargame with it. Now that I've built this whole thing, what are we going to do with it? This is the Japanese keep, or tenshu model. The really cool thing about it is that it has so many layers, all of them playable. It actually has 6 different playable layers to it. So now that I've built this, we're going to talk to Japanese samurai historian Tom Conlan about how you can use castles like this, or fortifications, in your wargaming. And I'm also going to talk to you folks about what it was like to build a big kit like this. Before we get started in the castle, a good reminder that we are getting ready to launch our Patreon on the channel, the Mark's Game Room Patreon. So for now, what we have is the Discord, where you can come and chat with us free of charge in our Discord and get ready for our launch. So come and join us there. The link will be in the description. And then also be ready for the imminent launch of our Patreon itself. And we're going to open that with a 7 Samurai campaign, where if you are a Patreon, you can join as one of the 7 Samurai themselves, and you get to see what will happen to you. To talk about the castle here, it's a pretty big kit. It comes from Blacksite Studios, which is based in the United States. They do a lot of different MDF work. And I would say this is a moderate complexity kit, only because it's so very large. It's helped a lot by the fact that it's actually pre-painted. So I had to do almost no paint work. The only thing I really did at the moment is to dry brush the roof to make the roof look a little bit nicer, because it comes as a little bit flat. So in terms of the advice I can give, this kit, being kind of moderate in complexity, took about 5 or 6 hours to complete. And the hints I would give you, as maybe a new MDF builder, is to get yourself a really nice wood glue. I use Gorilla Ultimate Wood Glue, and to use less than you think, use relatively small amounts. And then for this kit, it has large square sections, like the layers of it. So I made sure to use a vise to hold those layers together while they dried so they would keep their shape nicely. But overall, I think this, given how big it was, wasn't a very hard kit to put together. So I really wanted a samurai castle, mostly because I grew up with things like Akira Kurosawa's films, like Raw and Throne of Blood. You have this big battle in a castle. So I just really wanted one, to be honest. But then I get to thinking, how do I actually use this in wargaming? So for that, I look to historian Tom Conlan, who specializes in samurai warfare, to ask the question, what would have been the real role of samurai castles in the late 16th century, around the time of Sekigahara? And once we get that answer, maybe we'll figure out how we could use them in something like one of our live streams.
You have castles that are built by important roads. And these castles are a web of castles. And each castle has, you'd have 30 to 50 people, and maybe a little bit more, maybe 100. But even within the castles, you'd have supporting elements, and then you'd have a web of other castles around there. So in order to conquer anything, one needs to take all these mountain castles to do anything. So it's very laborious. So that's another thing, is if I could maybe show you, we have animated, it's 14th century, but we animated this whole mountain attack of a castle, and you can see where they come through. We did it with Google Maps and everything, and you can really get a sense of how laborious it is.
What Tom said about the size of the garrisons and how small they were really piqued my interest as a wargamer. You could actually have a very fun, small skirmish-style battle that's a siege of a castle like this, with just 30 models on the one side and maybe 50 or 60 on the other. You can actually start your collection very small, and you have a very historically accurate siege from this period. So you can then build from that. The samurai era with all its difficulties in painting each little guy, is actually really accessible, even for wargamers who don't like painting tons and tons of miniatures. So if you're going to tie this into a campaign, I asked Tom, what do other battles look like around castles?
Armies, once they're trying to occupy territory, once they are unable to move, they entrench and they occupy. And so that's the one thing, is that actually they remain entrenched against each other in Kyoto's, totally stalemated. So they're not
Opposite.
avoiding the conflict. They are, it just continues for about the whole time. So that's the one side. So once these armies are engaged, then the whole point is it goes to trying to cut off logistics. And so they can't move. And the only way to win would be to get them sort of their supply lines broken.
So what is the scale of those conflicts where you'll have supply line raiding? Is that like a Sone aside, a couple thousand men, or what do you end up with?
It's hard to know the numbers because as I would say that any one figure, the most they between 3 to 5,000 would be the most warriors, most really combatants that one of these people could have. So the problem is that the records are more scattered. We see castles taken or not. I mean, I'm saying you're talking in the hundreds. These are serious campaigns, but they have to keep their main forces there. You see what I mean? And
Right.
tracks like that. So I don't have a good sense of the numbers, but I'd say castles are taken or not sometimes. So I would probably guess several hundred, several hundred on each side. And sometimes they become far more pitched.
That really informed me in why castles are so important. They control vital supply lines, so they have to be held. But that also leads us to this idea that the battles don't have to be in the castles themselves. In fact, often they weren't. Often they would be in small towns where the supplies are gathered, or on the roads between towns where supply caravans might be ambushed. And another point from Tom is that castles don't even have to look like this in this period. In fact, most of them didn't. The smaller ones could even have been something like this, which looks like a samurai residence, but he talks about a small family at a crossroads that have a house just like this.
Everything's fortified. Everyone's got a castle. And some of there's like this one group called the Emma, and it's like in the middle of the mountains, middle of nowhere, there's a crossroads. And there's no agriculture possible. But they have their house, and they have this beautiful garden, and they're just blocking the crossroads. So everyone comes up and pay a toll. And so they didn't need to rely on agriculture and anything else, and they did really well until Nobunaga finally came in and just killed them all. You know what I mean? But it just shows you that they're not agricultural. They're not that. It's control over trade and movement of goods is how they gained a lot of wealth. And I think that again, if they have a problem, they go back up to their castle. So that's kind of how it needs to be. That's how it needs to be done. But that means you don't have big armies wandering around, except for really unusual circumstances.
Most of the battles in this period, the vast majority, would have been relatively small, maybe 300 men aside at most. And that's the kind of force that we see here in these miniatures from Wargames Atlantic. The neat thing about that is that with the Wargames Atlantic 10mm line, you can actually make an army out of just one box of samurai and one box of ashigaru at 1-to-1 scale, every single man represented, and it would be completely historically accurate from what we've heard. So this fits interestingly into that greater narrative of something like a campaign, where you'd have a force like that fighting an equivalent force over supply lines near a castle, and that would fit neatly into a siege for a castle that might be a little smaller, where you might use 28mm, and they would be, again, 1-to-1 with only 100 or so miniatures in total. So with that, the samurai period is actually a lot more approachable than one might think. They're actually fighting over relatively small areas. So I think it's a really great place for people to get started with it, and I'm interested to hear what you folks think too. So knowing that, let us know in the comments if you're interested in seeing more about the Japanese castle, maybe having us fight a siege battle on a stream or something like that. We love to hear what you guys want to see, and we're happy to do it for you. And remember to join our Patreon and our Discord, where you can talk to us. And if you're in our Patreon, you can help support us making more videos like this. We love to bring this kind of content to you guys, and we want to keep doing it for you. So remember, join our Patreon, like and subscribe, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.